I have just come back from my holiday to this rumour that HBO are considering casting a female Voldemort. Now, just to be clear, I've obviously got no clue if this rumour is true. I personally was under the impression that they'd already cast Voldemort, but they weren't going to announce it until he appears in the actual show. Despite him saying it's not him, I was secretly hoping, and still am, that it is Cillian Murphy. But anyways, the rumour has come from somewhere that it could be a female actor that plays Voldemort. Now, even if this is true, it doesn't mean much because maybe they did audition females for Voldemort, but they perhaps still have chosen or will choose male. But anyways, let's discuss that it is a female actor that is playing Voldemort. So, obviously the casting of Papa Essiedu as Snape was controversial due to significant differences in appearance between the actor and the character as described in the books. But the thing is with that, having Snape played by a black actor doesn't change anything about the story or hinder the actor's ability to portray Snape's character. Yes, it is not keeping true to the source material, as Snape's skin is described in the books as pale, but further than this, I don't think it has any impact on the story. However, changing Voldemort as a character from male to female, I think does present several issues. The first of which is Voldemort's name is obviously Tom. Now, they could just have a female Tom, but it might feel a bit weird, as Tom is obviously traditionally a male name only, so it just wouldn't really work and it might feel a bit weird. Which could mean that they would have to change the Tom to something else that would work as a female, which would completely ruin the whole point of Voldemort's name being Voldemort, because Voldemort comes from the name Tom Marvolo Riddle, which was rearranged into I am Lord Voldemort, as we saw in the Chamber of Secrets. So changing the name from Tom to something else would kind of ruin all of that. Now, aside from the name, the next issue is that Voldemort is supposed to, at least in his youth, be the spitting image of his handsome Muggle father. Now, a lot of this stuff was kind of ignored in the films, but in the books, Voldemort's mother, Merope, prays that Voldemort, Tom, ends up looking like his father, Tom Riddle Sr., as opposed to her. And her prayers are answered. Their resemblance is so striking that many years later, Voldemort's uncle Morphin actually mistakes Tom Riddle, Voldemort, for his late father, Tom Riddle Sr. It's an important part of the Voldemort family history which the HBO series must include. Therefore, making Voldemort a woman would kind of mess all that stuff up a bit, and they would have to rewrite parts of the story and Voldemort's family history. There's also other stuff like Voldemort's names. For instance, Lord Voldemort. Now, Lord is obviously traditionally a title given to males. What would they change it to? Lady Voldemort. Also, the Dark Lord, that would, I guess, be changed to the Dark Lady, which sounds really weird. No, to be honest, if they did go down this route, they would probably just have to leave it as Lord, because it sounds a bit odd, Lady Voldemort. There's also the issue of He Who Must Not Be Named, which I guess they would just need to change to She Who Must Not Be Named. Which is fine, but I just think maybe sounds a little strange to people that are very familiar with the story. Now, let's talk about Voldemort's appearance. So, this is supposed to be a book-accurate show, so they need to stick to Voldemort's appearance as described in the books. So the young Voldemort will need to have short dark hair and then become bald later in life. Now, they can obviously achieve that with no problem with a female actor. It's not an issue. In fact, a female's voice could potentially be more suited to Voldemort's high-pitched, silky voice. But I'm just struggling with this a little bit, to be honest, because what is the point of casting a female to play Voldemort? From what I've discussed, there are a few challenges. They'll have to amend big chunks of the story and potentially Voldemort's past, and not to mention maybe change some of his names as well, which is fundamentally not staying true to the source material. It feels like a lot of trouble, and why? What is the benefit? I suppose it would give HBO a wider talent pool of actors available to them for casting Voldemort, but it just feels a bit odd to me, because if this was a story with no or very few female characters in it, then I could completely understand that they'd want to make the cast more diverse. But this isn't the case with Harry Potter. Some of the biggest and most important characters in the Harry Potter story are women. Hermione, Mrs. Weasley, McGonagall, Bellatrix Lestrange, Umbridge, and that's just to name a few, there's plenty more. So to be honest, I have to conclude that casting a female to play Voldemort would present the showrunners and writers with several issues which they would inevitably have to change key parts of the story to get around. And it seems to me for very little payoff. Unless, of course, HBO would cast a female to play Voldemort but keep Voldemort as a character as male. Now this is possible, they could definitely do that. My only concerns with this is just believability and continuity. So what I mean is, as viewers, we need to believe that the young boy that we've seen and the teenager and young adult Tom Riddle, who's obviously clearly a man and a boy, has evolved into the adult older Voldemort. So my only concern is, will woman playing the older Voldemort sort of break the continuity and make it feel a bit less believable? That's my only issue. And then going back again to my previous point, which is, what is the purpose of doing this? Also, I just want to be clear here, I'm not making a general point about female actors playing male characters. I've got no issue with that in principle, it's not a problem. I'm just talking specifically in the case of Voldemort. I think it will most likely involve them changing a lot of the story and plot. Apologies if I've missed anything out here or if there's something I'm missing. Please let me know in the comments if there is something I'm missing. Anyway, so subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video and drop it a like.